being violated that the legal department seemed to take a walk. So what I would tell you, Puggy, and I guess maybe I have a little more information than you, is that there were some members of the legal department who really were telling the council, wait now, you can't do that. However, there were others who were saying, oh yeah, you can do that. And that goes back to the Pat Schelt time, when they removed Pat Schelt. Remember that it takes 6 people to vote to expel somebody. When they voted to expel Pat Schelt, the vote was 5-3. They didn't allow Pat to vote. 5 is not 2/3 of 9. However, one of the lawyers went back and said, well, gee, wait now, 5 is 2/3 of 8. It's at least a working 2/3. And the council, the executive committee, 3 of them, said, you're right, but let's just stop for a second and do the math. 5 is not even 2/3 of 8. And so that was even wrong. But going back to the abuse of power, 3 members of the executive committee said, oh yeah, you're right, we agree with that. It's at least a working 2/3. And so, yeah, Schelt, you're done. We vote to expel you, you're done. And so here's the other part about that. Now let's take a comparison. The state government and the federal government, they have official lawyers that are called the attorneys general. And those lawyers are charged with the responsibility of telling government, the president, the governor, this is illegal, you can't do it. And they have the authority to bring an independent action in a separate court to stop that. So again, we could build that into a new constitution. We can say whether by election, now the state attorney general, they're elected, but the federal attorney general, they're appointed by the president, but they still have the same authority. Why do you think Bill Clinton almost got removed from office? Why did Richard Nixon get pushed out of office? Because at some point, someone the Attorney General appointed, even though Bill Clinton's Attorney General was appointed by him, he went to Congress and said, I think we need a special prosecutor appointed to investigate, because I've been potentially in conflict. And so Congress appointed a special prosecutor, and they investigated Bill and Hillary Clinton and brought charges against a bunch of people, and eventually provided the basis for Congress for a bill of impeachment against Clinton. Now that lost, but that's how it worked. Back in Tricky Dick Nixon's era, they pursued that, and when it was clear the votes were there to impeach him, he resigned. But so changing that so that the legal department is not just some arm of the tribal council, it's actually an arm of the government with the independent authority to not just represent the council, but represent the tribe. When that thing with Pat Schelt was going on, the council brought in an attorney, not a non-tribal member. I won't say who it is, but it's a good example of what you're talking about. And Pat, he filed a complaint against that attorney with something called the Montana Commission on Practice for Lawyers, the group that regulates lawyers in Montana. And Pat came and showed me the letter. That's why I knew what it said. The Commission on Practice wrote that attorney a letter, and they asked that attorney one simple question. They said, here's our question to you. Is your client the tribal council, or is your client the tribe? That goes to exactly what you're talking about, isn't it? If your client's the tribal council, then you basically do whatever the council wants. But if your client's the tribe, then you have a duty, an independent duty as a lawyer to say, wait now, the council wants to do this, but it's against their constitution, might even violate some federal law, and therefore it doesn't seem to be in the best interest of the tribe. And if it's not, it's my duty to take a stand against it, my legal and ethical duty to take a stand against it. But we don't spell that out here, do we? We just say the council can hire an attorney. We've gone beyond that already, but it says they have the right to employ legal counsel for the advancement of the rights of the tribe and its members. Again, I don't think you'd find a lawyer that's worked for the council in the past 20 years that could tell you that that's what the Constitution says, and would therefore be able to answer that question that was posed to that lawyer. Who's your client? The tribe or the tribal council? So, going on, because we're getting close to a time we said we were going to quit, it says the council has the authority to advise the Secretary of Interior with regard to all appropriation estimates or federal projects for the benefit of the Blackfeet tribe prior to submission of such estimates to the Bureau of the Budget and Congress, and to manage economic affairs and enterprises of the reservation, including all oil leases on tribal lands and the disposition of oil royalties from tribal lands in accordance with the terms of a charter to be issued to the Blackfeet tribe by the Secretary of Interior. So it's under Article 6, Section 1E, that the charter comes into play. Now, once again, I served on 2 terms. I represented councils for about 10 years. Not many people I ever worked with on the council could even tell you what this was in this charter, let alone follow it. And I've actually served with people who said, well, I don't even know what's in that charter, so we're probably going to violate it all the time. But yet we take an oath that we're going to uphold the Constitution and laws of the tribe. And this is one of those laws.
Hey Joe, just a quick point there on that charter. In 1950, there was oil leases started coming, and they were more significant than what was in the charter, more than the $5,000 limit that's in there. And so a council back then took that $5,000, in excess of $5,000 from that money, oil leases, and put it in an account. And the Secretary of Interior called them on it. So they violated their charter as early as in 1950, I can see. And the 10,000 thing you always hear about, you can't make an expenditure more than 10,000 is in the charter.
Let's talk real quick about 2 provisions in the charter. And again, these come up, and one is another reason why we have to change all of this. Under the charter, and the charter says that the board of the tribe is going to be the council. And so under the charter it has something called corporate powers, Section 5. And it says, subject to the restrictions contained in the Constitution and laws of the United States or the Constitution and bylaws of the tribe, shall have the following corporate powers in addition to powers already conferred. And here's one that always comes up that I personally brought up. But yet, if we think about it today, it's so outdated that to follow it every day would just bog tribal government down. It says that the council has the power to purchase, take by gift, bequest, or otherwise hold, own, manage, operate, and dispose of property of every description, real and personable, subject to the following limitations. Here's the first limitation. No sale or mortgage may be made by the tribe of any land or interest in land, including water power sites, water rights, oil, gas, or other mineral rights now or hereinafter held by the tribe within the boundaries of the reservation. No sale of any other capital asset of the tribe exceeding the value of $10,000 may be made unless approved by a majority vote at a referendum called by the tribal council as provided in Article 9 of the Constitution. Now let's take that last sentence there. For those of you that don't know, in accounting terms, A capital asset is any asset that has a life of more than a year, in which under accounting rules we do what we call depreciate. We reduce its value over time. So, what's the value of a brand new truck today? A lot more than $10,000, right? So let's say we use that truck for a couple of years and we decide we're going to trade it in. That's essentially a sale. Now, if we've only used it for a couple of years, chances are, because if you look in the paper at used trucks, those of us that are truck people, hell, you can't buy a truck that's less than 10 years old for less than $10,000, can you? Even a good used truck, you're looking at anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000. So if we're going to trade our 2-year-old truck in, and it's got a value of more than $10,000, according to this, we have to have a referendum vote. So every time you were going to do something like that, you'd have to have a referendum vote. And that's kind of like why Crows eventually changed their constitution, because they realized that having a vote on everything bogged down their government. They weren't going nowhere. And you can all probably remember that we all used to joke privately about, oh, I'm going to end up like them Crows. Look at them Crows. And that's why, because they were voting on everything. Now let me jump way ahead. This is one of my favorite provisions of the Charter. And you all remember something called Tire Tech, huh? And that's when the council put up $750,000 to buy a patent on used tires that supposedly were going to be made into road building material. And I just heard about it. And there was all these rumors, and I thought there's got to be a way to prove it. So Article 9 of the Charter says, and I'm going to skip parts of it down to, basically says the officers of the tribe shall maintain accurate and complete accounts of the financial affairs of the tribe, etc. Tribal council shall elect from within or without their number a treasurer, who shall under the control and direction of the tribe be the custodian of all money under the jurisdiction of the tribe, shall pay out money in accordance with the orders and resolutions of the council. No disbursement shall be made without the signature or approval of the treasurer. He shall keep accurate accounts of all receipts and disbursements, and shall make written reports of the same to the council at each regular and special meeting. Shall be bonded in such amount as the council shall by resolution provide. And here's the big one. The books of the treasurer shall be open or shall be audited at the direction of the council or the commissioner of Indian Affairs, and shall be open to inspection by members of the tribe or duly authorized representatives of the government at all reasonable times. In other words, tomorrow morning at 8:30, we ought to be able to go next door over here, go into Miss Birdrattler's office and say, Tainsi, we want to see all of the books of the tribe. I want to start with, and I did this several times, I want to start with the council's travel. I want to see all the council's travel for the last year. And in theory, she has to give me that. But if we were to go over there and do that tomorrow, what do you think the answer is going to be? Tainsi is going to say, you got to go ask the council. And the council is going to say, no, that's confidential information. Well, according to this, it's public information, isn't it? That's one of the ways we go back to that word, checks and balances, are those words, but they give us what? Accountability. That's how you hold people accountable, is by information and knowledge, and spreading that knowledge out to the people. And so our only method of holding a council accountable is information. And we're supposed to be able to get that information. But if we're denied that information, how can you hold the council accountable? You can't. And so we'll stop there.